Welcome to JIL Training Solutions. Today we will be going over the ribbon bars on Microsoft Excel. In this lesson, I will just be going over the different ribbon bars and the panels. In a later video, you can come back later and check out where I go into details on each ribbon bar to kind of explain to you what those features are. So if you look at the top, this portion from the gray portion from right here where my mouse is at all the way to down here is what you call the ribbon bar. And the ribbon bar has a lot of different options to formatting your data, to changing your layouts. And so let's kind of go through some of those things. The first is the home. We're going to go with home first. And so you have this ribbon bar, and you can select from one ribbon tab to the next just by left clicking on it. So now I'm going to insert, so let me go back to home. And so on the home page, there are a couple of page groups, and the page groups are categorized based on similar features. For instance, Clipboard. So on your Clipboard, you can cut, copy, change the painter, and paste data. You have font, which deals with the actual font of the text. So it deals with the font family. It deals with the font size. You can bold, italicize, underline. You also can do borders. And another thing that I like with Microsoft is that when you put your icon on a particular, when you put your mouse on an icon, it kind of give you a brief description. So like for this here is to increase the font size, just to make your text a bit bigger. The same thing with this here, this is the decrease. So even after this lecture, if you still it's confusing because this is a quick illustration of the ribbon bar, but if you find yourself not remembering what I've said, it's okay. The only thing you need to do is kind of come back, go open up Excel, put your mouse on the icon, and then you'll get a brief description of what the feature is. Here is font color, so you can actually change the font color. And here you have the fill color, which changes the cell in the back of the actual cell. Here we have alignment, and so this kind of deals with the alignment of the text. So if you want it up or down or left or right, here you can have it top of the cell. This is in the middle, and this is at the bottom. This is left alignment, center, right. This here particular icon I use a lot because you can merge, and I'm going to show just a quick illustration of it because I love it. So if you're creating a formula and you're saying, I want to put the name of my company. The name of my company is JIL Training Solutions, and I want it to go across several columns. What I'll do is I'll highlight how many columns that I want it to spread across. And then I'll click on this merge and center, and what it does is it merges your data into one cell, which allows you to center data underneath. So if I'm here and I click a border, now I can center data from in this here particular area here. So I use the merge and cell a lot, especially I deal with a lot of data. So a lot of times when I'm formatting the data and putting in a certain layout, the merge and center is just a common icon I use, so I felt like I should give you an illustration of that. And so if you want to indent or increase or decrease indentation of your text, this will be decrease, and this one here will be increase. And so orientation, so if you want to change the orientation of your text, so instead of having your text go from left to right vertically, you can have it go horizontally, you can have it go vertically up and down just by using this particular icon. The next page group is number, and it deals with numbers. So you can change your number to a dollar sign, percentage. You can add commas. You can so dollar, percentage, comma. You can decrease your decimals, or you can increase your decimals. You also can go into here and then change it not only from numbers. You can say, well, you know what, change it to date. I want to change the text to text. So you have the option of changing the style of the text just by clicking on that drop down menu. The other is styles, and so if you're working with different if you create a table, and so the worksheet here is, it does have tables. So but if you want to format a table or add conditions to say, hey, I'm doing an invoice, and when the invoice is less than 0, I want it to turn, instead of the traditional red, I want to format it to turn blue, or I want particular words, you will use the condition of formatting. You can actually format a table, so you can actually convert a range of sales to look like an actual table. Same thing with cells. You can change the color and the styles of the cells to be different colors. And as you create your table here, you can insert cells. You can, and not only when I say cells, that's your rows and your columns. You can also delete cells here, and then you can format. You can change the height. You can change the height of the column, or the height of the row. So that's a cool feature if you're trying to format the actual table. Here you have editing. You can do a summation. So if I have, I'm going to show you this one because it's another one that I use a lot. So if you have an invoice and you're saying, okay, that costs $100, that costs $50, that costs $40, and then I'm going to highlight all three, and I'm going to come here and highlight and click on it, and then if I click this formula, instead of me, there is, and I'll show in another one of my lessons how to actually type up formulas, but in this instance, this is a common formula. You don't have to actually type in the actual formula to calculate the summation of the items. This icon does it for you. So if I click in, it tells me it's 190, and then I can highlight this and say, you know what, show it in dollar signs. I can actually put a come here and then select the border, and it gives me the border. So that's a cool feature, especially if you're dealing with invoices. A lot of times, say for instance, if you have you're doing a you have a spreadsheet and you want to type in, just say you maybe have date, and you're saying, okay, today is 1/24/20, and then I want to fill this information in. If I click on this here, it can fill the information down, right, left, depending on, you know, down, right, up, or left. And I'm going to do down. And then what it did was, actually, so I made a mistake. And what I'm going to do is, anytime you make a mistake, stop immediately and undo it. Do not proceed to go forward thinking you're going to fix it. It's easier just to stop. And then right here at the top bar is a arrow that looks like not a swervy arrow. I don't even know what to call it, so that's why I'm pausing. So this is undo. It's an undo task, and if you don't see this here particular icon, if you click, I don't know if you can tell, there's a little arrow here. If you click on here, if it wasn't highlighted, you can say select it. As you see, it's gone, but now I want to reselect it, so I left click on the arrow, I go down to undo, and now I can see it. So I'm going to select undo because I want to undo what I've done. So where I should have been is here, right below the date, and then I'm going to say highlight here, and then I'm going to click on down. No, sorry. I'm going to click down, and then what it does is it fills the information down. If I want to move it to fill the data to the right, I select this here and do right, and so you should get the concept from that. And then you have clear. So if you want to delete everything in the cell or remove some of the formatting, if you click clear all, as you see, it clears all. You can also just click on there and hit delete, and it does also the same thing. This here particular feature here is sort and filter. So if you want to sort and filter your data, if I have, let's just say if I want to change the date to 1/23/20, oh, I guess let's type it in a date format, that helps. And then I'm here and I say, you know, I want to filter, and I can say filter in, let's say descending order. So as you see, it changed it into descending order. At first it was January the 23rd to January 24th, and now it's 24th to 23rd. So that's another cool feature that you can click on. And then here is if you want to find. So if I'm looking for, let's say if I'm looking for a field that has, you know, $50, I click OK, click it in there and hit find next. And as you see, it's highlighting the cell that has that item. So let's click close. And then ideas is this, if you're looking for a pattern of data that you want to kind of create or personalize, this here icon, you can actually utilize that, but we won't go into that. The next ribbon bar, just moving along, I want to get to the insert, so I click on that. And this ribbon bar, just like all of the ribbon bars, are, like I said, sorted by the actual, are sorted in groups based on similarities. So here's pivot tables. If you have a bunch of data and you want to kind of summarize the data, this pivot tables are really good for that, and I'll have an illustration for that in an upcoming video. So your illustration, you can insert pictures, online pictures, shapes, icons, and so you can, and 3Ds. And so this is if you want to insert images into your actual worksheet, you can do it from here. And then add-ons is apps that people have created that kind of work along with Microsoft Excel that you can utilize, and you can click on that by adding add-ins. The only thing I would like to say about add-ins, sometimes depending on the actual app that you are adding to your add-in, sometimes you can see a performance hit depending on how much data you have on your worksheet, and then how much formulas or functional processing the actual application is doing. So if you notice you've added an add-on and now your Excel is moving really slow, just to test to make sure, I would just remove it and then test it again. If it started to pick up, then you know it was the add-on, and then at that point you make a decision if you want to continue to keep the add-on or not. Recommended charts of if you are in sales, or if you're crunching numbers and you're an analytical person, or you need to do a report for your boss. The charts I love, especially as, like I said, the pivot tables. The tables here does also the same things, but you can create different charts. And I'll have a video on doing charts, but charts is anything that's related to charts is here. And then 3D maps. So if you want to take you have some geographical data and you want to map it out into like a 3D figure, you can do it from here. Then you have sparklings, and these kind of work along with, you have lines, columns, and win and lose. So these are mini like charts. So it kind of, even though Microsoft has separated these group of icons from the actual charts icons, they're charts also. And then you have filters. We kind of showed you how to do filters. Links, you can add links from, so if you have documents and you have this worksheet and you want to reference an actual document, but you don't want to put the document inside Excel, maybe it's a Word document or PDF, you can insert a link into the cell so that a person can go back, or you can go back later into that worksheet and click on that, and then you can actually see the links. Comments, this is really good, especially when you're working on an application that's shared among people. You can put in a comment for a person. You can change the comment based on person. So that's a cool feature. Text, if you want to actually enter text boxes, and text boxes it's kind of cool because you can, and it's similar to if you've used Word before, you probably used text boxes before, but here you can add a text box that kind of lay like a picture, and then maybe you want to you're doing a I like to use the example of an invoice, and then you have your contact information, and you want to kind of move it in an awkward way that doesn't align with the cells. You can put it in the text box. This is where your headers and your footers If you're doing a report format, you can edit it here. You can add word art, which is similar to like the illustrations that we showed in the other group panel. You can add a signature line and other miscellaneous objects. And then the same thing, lastly, for symbols. And so inserting is, when you think about insert, think about putting something extra on your worksheet that's currently not there, like inserting objects or inserting charts. So you're inserting an actual document. The next ribbon bar tab we're going to work on is draw. And so if you have tools, so these are different tools that you can use to draw items. You have your pen, so you can have a variety of different colors. You can actually convert some of your shapes to different math symbols, and then you have your ink replay. And so this is for anybody who's doing, you're drawing items on your actual worksheet. The next tab is page layout. You have themes, so if you want to change the color of change the themes of your worksheet, you can just do it based off the color scheme. You can change it fonts across the board on your worksheet and different type of effects. Page setup has is deal with the printing, how your document is going to be printing. Do you want to reduce some of the margins because you want to kind of go closer to the border? You want to do orientation. You either want the document portrait or landscaping. Size, you can do letter, you can do legal, you can do statements, you can do envelopes. So there's a variety of document sizes that you can use. And then print area, so say for instance I have a complete invoice and I only want to print a small portion of that invoice. I can select that area, set the print area, and then it'll only print that part. Or I can also do maybe I set the print area and now I want to print the whole document. I can clear that print area. Then you also have breaks, so you can have page breaks, especially if you're doing reports. You can set a page break. So say for instance, if the actual if you printed this page and it printed from 1 to 18, but you wanted the first page to be 1 to 10, you can set a page break. And then you can also do the same thing with removing the page breaks. And then you have your background. Backgrounds are images that you can use from, you can either use from your computer, your OneDrive, or you can search images off of Bing. So this is a kind of inserting objects. Print tiles, so you can choose to have like columns and rows that you want to show up on your document repeatedly. So if you want to, let's just say if you was typing your logo name, you wanted to print continuously across columns, you can do that. Scale to fit, making sure you can do width or height or just kind of scale to fit the document into the print area so that you're able to print. You can show, so sheet options, you can print the sheet. You can print, the grid lines, you can either really view grid lines so you just only see it on the worksheet, or you can print it. The same thing with headings. And then arrangements has a lot to do with objects. So if I print, like if I put a picture on here and I want the picture, maybe it's a picture of the ocean and I want that picture to be in the background, I can put the picture on there and it's going to show up front, and then I can send it to the back of the text or in front of the text, all depend on your particular layout. The next thing is formulas. I won't go into details formulas. I'm just going to go over the groups. So you have the functional libraries, and here you have the common functions that you use. But I do a whole video on functions because that is the core of what Microsoft Excel is all about: creating the formulas, generating data analysis. You find it on this particular ribbon page, a ribbon bar, ribbon tab. So you have defined names. You can define your names of your actual worksheets. If you're working with multiple people, maybe it's two people in your team, and one person is going to do a couple formulas and you're going to do the other. You can track who did what. Calculating options, so you can calculate different formulas. You can have Microsoft do it automatically based on the functions that they have in their function library, or you can actually create some of your own. And so anything that's kind of doing with formulas, you would go on the formula tab. Data, love data. So data is my thing. And so data covers a whole lot. So you can get and transform data, which means like you can get data from a separate source. So I can get data from a Microsoft SQL Server database. I can pull it from maybe even a second Excel document, and I can pull the data into the spreadsheet. I can do so from here is just kind of this connecting to a outside external source. Here I can import data from an actual text file. So you get another file that's a text file or a CSV file, which is similar to Excel, but you can also pull that information in. This is if you want to import data from a web page. You just enter in the correct URL information. Here you can kind of create a query link to another range of data, so you can have data within your actual workbook or separate workbook. Here you have so once you create the sources, you can go back and collect and get data from connections that you've already saved in your library. And then this here is getting existing connections that you already have saved on here. Queries and connections. I won't go into that. So if you are familiar with connecting to external sources like a SQL Server databases, and you want to run queries, this is pretty much what this here section is. In order for me to kind of really explain to you, I kind of show you what the queries are, and so I won't kind of go into that. But for you beginners, but people who are accustomed to working with queries, this is where you would go once you connect it to an external data source. And data types. You can kind of change your different, you can convert your cells to different data types. So if you have if you had like a list of states or populations, you can create it so that it can be, you can convert it so that it looks more like a geography of a population or statistical information. The same thing with stocks. You can actually, I don't have anything open, but I mean have anything here, so that's why I got the error. So I clicked on stocks and I didn't have any data. So if you have stock information here, you can highlight the data and click on here, and it'll convert the information to data the same way that the geography will do. Sort and filter. Just take a break. Sorry, I need a water break. So sort and filter, you can sort your data. As we already kind of showed you when I did the data, you can filter the date based on values that's in a particular column. This is more advanced queries. Data tools, I kind of really won't go into that. I did do a video on text to column. So when you say you get a text file from an external source and it's in a certain format and you want to kind of import it into the appropriate columns, you would use these data tools in order to do that. And in forecasting, this is to show your data. So say for instance, if I had a particular data and I'm trying to do prediction on it, let's just say I have some stock information over a period of time and I'm trying to forecast future outputs. These are the forecasting options that I will use. And then outline is kind of taking your worksheet that kind of looked like a table and make it into more of an outline form. Let's go on to review. So review has to do with pretty much formatting your data in a way of displaying information to another person. So the first is proofing, making sure that my data is presentable, there is no spell checks. If I want to add, change the wording, checking accessibility. It makes sure that that your data kind of follow best practices. Smart Lookup. It's a good tool to you can select different definitions. So if you're creating a text and you want to kind of link to Google for a definition of certain words, you can actually use that. Translate, if you're dealing with bilingual people and you want to translate that information between your English speaking or maybe your Spanish speaking audience, you can do that with translation. Comments, so you're displaying this information to somebody, but you also want to give comments so people can understand the information. Maybe it is an invoice and you want to say, okay, this particular, I charge you an extra $25 $25. I gave you a discount of $25 because I like you. And then you can put that in the comment field. Notes, you can add notes for yourself or for the person that you're displaying this information to, going more into details of, you know, whatever the data is. And then protecting is another thing. You're displaying this information, or you're giving this information to someone, and you don't want them to alter the data. So here you can protect your data from here. You can hide information. A lot of times you type up stuff, and maybe you're typing a formula that you don't want nobody else to see, but you needed that formula to get the value of another cell, and so you can hide that information there. View is here you can, so you have workbook view. You can change the layout of the view of the screen. You can you can get rid of the grids. You can show the grids, headers, formula bars. This here is a formula bar. I can kind of get rid of the formula bar. I can add it. If you don't never use a formula bar, I use it a lot, so it's here, but you can remove it. Zoom for you people like me with glasses. You can use the zoom to project the text more bigger, or you can reduce it. So the panels, you can use this here to add windows. You can arrange multiple windows at one screen. You can freeze a panel. So if I want to just freeze column A and then be able to go all the way to A0, it will not remove column A. And then you can switch between windows. Macros, love macros. So macros, it is with VBA code, which is kind of like a Visual Basic application code, where you can program, you can do your own programming. So you can say, hey, if a user clicks this button, then do these particular tasks. So I love macros, and I'll have a session on macros later. So make sure that if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel so that you can see my upcoming videos that's coming up. So let's go to add-ins. I have no add-ins, and so we discussed how if you can insert add-ins or outside of external applications to kind of work with Microsoft Excel. Once you do that, your add-ins will kind of display here, but we have none. Help, and so if you need help, Microsoft has different, well, not different, frequent asked questions, or you could type in a problem and it kind of tell you some of the solutions. Acrobat, I have Acrobat installed on this machine, so it's not part of all of Microsoft Excel. So when you have it in there, and certain versions of Microsoft Excel have this here. So if you have a document, you can actually create it and convert your Excel document to a PDF. You can share it. You can create it and send it to somebody else. Maybe you want to send it to your boss for review. And so you can create a PDF and then run a couple actions on that, similar to like the macros. But if you don't have Acrobat on your machine, or you didn't get the version with Acrobat, you probably won't see this actual tab. And then lastly but not least is the team ribbon bar. And this is not on all versions of Microsoft Excel, so I think maybe if you have that student version, you may not see this here. And so this is good when you're working with multiple people. You can kind of share. So Microsoft has this Team Foundation application that kind of works along with Microsoft Excel. You can use that in here. You can create work items, so if you want to create a task for people, this is a cool way to do that. So team is more people that the team ribbon bar is usually for people that kind of work along with the other Microsoft suites to do projects. And so that's pretty much sums up what this ribbon bar what the ribbon bars are. If you have not liked this here, please like it. If you want me to go into more details, particularly in any one of these ribbon bars, or one of those panel groups, or even just one of the icons, send me a message below. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, and have fun with Excel. It's a great tool. You can use it for not only business, for personal, so I use it for everything. I love it. This is JIL Training Solutions, and thank you for listening to my course.